is me, and I'm working on something else now. Ghetto Gourmet, making it fabulous as usual. Fabulous, wonderful. Not fab, but fab, right? Alright, look. I'm making something different. I'm making a whole wheat with brown sugar. And these are wheat berries. I take them and I soak them in some water for about an hour or two. Regular water and some shock top raspberry wheat. I've increased the yeast on this by 50%, so I'm putting in 0.75 ounces of yeast, half ounce of salt. So I'm looking for a little bit more yeast working up into a spring here. Now hydroscopy is something that we talk about. It's the liquid in something. So we put beer into this, but I also soak the wheat berries, and the wheat berries are carrying their own moisture. Now the sugar soaks up moisture too. So when we're baking, what we really got going on is a chemical reaction. It's a formula. That's why the chefs call them formulas. It's something that is happening because all these certain ingredients are applied together. The certain ratio of water to dry, hydroscopy, as they say, is achieved, and then when it's in the oven, this all reacts at once to heat. Now you have a couple of different reaction times. You have the reaction time of the first bench, which I'm increasing my speed a little bit by putting it into the oven like a mini mock proof brewer like I was before. And this is going to be a really hydroscopic dough. It's going to be a lot stickier because I'm working with wheat flour, which doesn't have as much gluten as bread flour does. Also, I've got the wheat berries in there. I've added in the brown sugar, and I've added in beer. So I've really changed the basic wetness of this dough and the different types of fluids that I put into it. Look at that, it's getting sticky. So, oh Lord, where's my wheat flour at? Here I is. Also, I put a handful of flax seeds in this. So, I'm gonna see. I finally worked it together. It's got really sticky. See the strings in it there? Completely different kind of hydroscopy. So, I'm gonna put you down here so you can see what happens on the bench. We're gonna have to work this one a lot different than the other ones. Get this out. It might take some more gluten building. Hopefully I put enough gluten into the wheat flour because I added some high gluten flour to the wheat flour just as I did last time with the bread flour. Wet hands do not knead dough well. So different things carry different forms of hydroscopy. Hydroscopy, we know what we're talking about. The wet, right? The wet that's in butter, the wet that's carried by sugars, the wet that's carried by different starches. If the nuts and the seeds, they can take some of the wet out of your bread because the nuts will soak up the seeds. But now, like say I put in some fruit. The fruit is going to make the bread wetter. So we have to have this nice combination of all these things. So we've seen the proofing, we've seen the benching, we've talked about the protein in flour. And now the two other agents, while I'm going at this for a little bit, excuse me, see it's like that, way over there, way over there. And what I mean is your yeast and your salt. If you forget your salt, you can have a big mess. If you forget your yeast, you don't get nothing. Most recipes, they like to carry them about the same, but I'm starting to find that I like putting a little bit more of this yeast in when I work with this. Now, if you can see how I'm working on the table here, what I really have after I move this shit out of the way, excuse my language, after I move that stuff, is I create a square. And then every square's got a little bit of flour in it. So I work it through like that. And as it gets too sticky, I run it through some drier flour. And then pick up some more dry flour and work all the way over to here. And then I'm working up here because I got more. You see, I kind of cover the whole table. That way you can keep pushing really hard. You don't like get it all wet and dried out, or wet. You don't get it too much at once, so it'll get cracks and dried out. And again, so I'm gonna have to knead this for a while. The same other processes: the benching, then the proofing, and then the baking. Now, since this is a richer bread, that's another reason that I added more yeast to it. The yeast love to eat stuff. I mean, they love to get in there and eat stuff. So if you're going to make some bread, they have like ground fava beans or ground beans or seeds or anything that has an extra protein that the yeast can eat. The beer works because it's got the barley in there. Oatmeal works. I'm using wheat berries here, but you get the idea. Anything that the yeast can eat healthier by. They can just eat the starch that's in the flour, or you can feed it. You can feed it yummy stuff, and that really gives it this umami flavor. That's like, ooh, excuse me, you hear that? I'm bent over. What can I say? So it really has this umami flavor. That makes the bread. The good stuff that you buy around town here in Eugene, when you eat some of the bread and you're like, oh, that flavor. It's built up because something that they put into the bread. Now, white bread, they just get ground fava bean or some other type of bean. But I like having chunky bread. I like stuff in my bread. So seeds will do it, especially seeds where the meat is exposed. Sunflower seeds and such like that. Nuts will do it. So any of this stuff, it's going to feed your yeast. And if you got good healthy yeast, then you got this good healthy rise going on in your bread. You have this good healthy flavor to your bread. You're getting so much more out of just throwing together some flour and some salt and water and some yeast, which is basic French bread. This is a basic French bread, but we're modifying this. Okay, catch you later when I baked it, and we'll see how it turns out when I cut it. Ghetto Gourmet. Peace.